Yo, how's it going, everybody? You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now. We're live right here on Chat Sports. My name is Chase Sr., and as always, no matter where you are or how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. So much to talk about here as the peak of free agency has kind of died down. But the NFL draft is coming up here at the end of the month, so a lot of draft buzz is starting to pick up steam and momentum. The NFL has become a sport where, really, it's a 12-month game. So we're going to discuss the latest Eagles news, rumors, and I'm going to pass along a lot of analysis and opinions as well, because that's what we do here on the show. We have people rocking and rolling with us from every pocket of America and worldwide, because that's a big reason why we're approaching 120,000 subscribers. Coming up here on the show, Eagles owner Jeffrey Lurie is thirsty, hungry for another Super Bowl championship. Is a Nick Sirianni contract extension coming soon? We're going to go through an Eagles 7-round mock draft, and then I'm going to react to Field Yates' 2-round Eagles mock draft. And then we're going to do a mailbag. So get those questions in right now. Use the hashtag Eagles or send in a super chat. If we get enough questions, we'll run that mailbag, opening up the floor and chopping it up with everybody out there. Of course, the storyline of the week has been the Tush push. Adam Schefter on 97.5 The Fanatic this morning saying something that I thought was head-turning, that pretty much it comes down to NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell not wanting this play to be in the NFL any longer. Here's what Schefter said. Roger Goodell is going to massage it, and he's going to work the owners, and he's going to get the votes that he needs. He works for the owners, and his job is to represent what he feels is best for the league. I'm just telling you, I don't think he wants the play in there. The commissioner, to me, doesn't seem like he wants the tush push. I think he and others think it's a boring play. I think they think it's just a boring play that doesn't belong in the game, which I think is baloney. And I think it's cowardly. This is a vote proposed by the Green Bay Packers, who, by the way, were 30th in 4th-and-1 conversion rate last year, that needed 24 votes in order for it to get passed. It only got 16. We should have ended the conversation there. It needed 24 votes. It got 16. Okay, that's not enough. To then delay this for a month, to try to convince owners when they knew this vote and proposal was coming, it's a soft move by Roger Goodell, the NFL, and by the teams who don't want this play in there. More from Schefter on the tush push here. I believe there are people in the league that are jealous of the Eagles' success. I believe there are people that can't duplicate the Eagles' success. I believe the commissioner and others don't like the play, and I believe the play is going to go away. I'm not telling you it's right. I didn't think it was going to go this way. I didn't think it was going to happen, but it gathered up momentum, and I believe those people have the support of the commissioner. Again, needed 24 votes, 8 votes shy, only got 16. The Eagles should be able to use this play in 2025. And you think about some of the advancements that we've seen throughout NFL history, right? At one point, it was controversial to throw out of the shotgun. It was controversial to have pre-snap motion and guys moving prior to the snap. When the Wildcat formation was introduced, everybody thought that was weird. Just because Lamar Jackson has success on RPOs and inside zones, does that mean that that play should be null and void, out of the league because Lamar Jackson's too difficult to defend? Try to stop it. And no teams have been able to stop it at a clip to the point where the Eagles have had so much success. And if it was so dominant, if it was such a big problem, other teams would be using this play. They don't because they can't. Use the hashtag Eagles or send in a super chat to be a part of the show and hop on board to join our mailbag. We have an absolutely loaded show coming up here on today's Philadelphia Eagles Now. So if you're ready to talk some Eagles, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon, like the video. Shout out to the recent commenter club, SC Birds fan, Carol Hosey, Peter Thurman, Gino and Joseph, Trey Lusato, Dennis Designs is back in the building. Speaking of Peter Thurman, and Dennis Designs. I submitted the request this week to get your Eagles Now hats sent to you. Dennis is in Florida. Peter is in Delco, yo. So be on the lookout for those hats to come your way here in a bit. Sorry for the delay. It's been absolutely crazy here to start the year for me with all of the travel, the Super Bowl run, NFL free agency, NFL Combine, Super Bowl week in New Orleans, that and a whole lot more. I know you understand, but just letting you know. All right, 170 people rocking with us. We only have 44 likes. We should be able to get 56 likes in 10 seconds to get that number up to 100. Hit that thumbs up icon, like the video right now if you're ready to talk some birds, and the official show begins right now. All right, let's do it. Welcome into the show. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now. My name is Chase Sr., and no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. A lot that I want to get into here. Eagles owner Jeffrey Lurie is hungry to bring home a third Lombardi trophy. I know the Eagles just won Super Bowl 59 back in February against Kansas City in New Orleans, but the Eagles are already looking ahead to the 2025 season. I love that championship mentality and that short memory. On the back half of the show, it seems inevitable at this point that Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni is going to land a contract extension. Before we talk about those two topics, can we get to 120,000 subscribers before the NFL draft? It's coming up at the end of April. We'll be live for every single day, every single round, every single pick. You don't want to miss our coverage, and you don't want to miss our daily and year-round coverage of the Birds. 2,400 people away from 120,000 subscribers, So hit that sub button right now. I failed elementary algebra at Temple University. I'm just not good at math, but I can talk. So let's talk right now. For Eagles owner Jeffrey Lurie, quite the resume that he's been able to put together. He's one of, if not the best owners in American professional sports. Not just judging that based off of championships won, because obviously Robert Kraft has more and others have more as owners of their respective teams, but with how he runs his business and the Eagles' longevity as far as success, what he's turned the Eagles into, the evaluation of that organization, how much it's valued right now, and the worldwide power that the Eagles have. Jeffrey Lurie is a fantastic owner. If he's not the best, he's one of the best in American professional sports. And think about what he's been able to do in leading the Eagles. Bought the Birds in 1994. They were in a bad spot. They did not have a lot of organizational success. Since that time, 2 Super Bowl championships, 2 since 2017, 4 NFC championship game wins, 11 NFC East titles, and 19 playoff appearances since 1994. They've been one of the winningest teams in all of football. Here's what Jeffrey Lurie said, by the way, on the Eagles offseason from the NFL owners meetings this week in Palm Beach, Florida. We want to win, and we want to win big. The way to win consistently and to win big is to plan for the contracts you're going to have to give your best young players, and we want to retain our best young players as we go forward. It's impossible if you draft well to do that. We want to make sure we're aggressive at being able to sign players early that we think are core players for the future. In the NFL, the way the salary cap system works, it's based on a certain percentage. The average team should not have a surplus of players they have to sign. When you're an excellent team, you should certainly have a surplus of players that you have on your roster. So my hope is that we will always draft well, we will always have a surplus, and we will always continue to figure out who and what opportunities you need to try to re-sign and sign these players 12 months out, 24 months out, and prepare for that so that you're never in a situation of drafting an excellent young player and preferring to keep them and have no way to keep them. This is a great way to run a football operation, and this is what has allowed the Eagles to be successful over the last several years. The NFL salary cap has continued to go up. Player salaries have increased with that. Howie Roseman has been a magician with the cap, being able to pull off salary cap gymnastics, and the Eagles have been ahead of the curve with creative ways of structuring contracts, signing players, getting ahead of these things. And something that Jerry Jones said this week really stood out to me, and it's why the Dallas Cowboys have not had championship level success since they won that last Super Bowl about 3 decades ago. Jerry Jones said, I'm fine waiting to sign these players. If I have to pay more for these players, I'm cool with that because that means that we got it right. So giving millions and millions and millions of dollars, more than you needed to a player, is good business? No, it's not. And I'm happy that Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman know that, and Jerry Jones does not. Here's Lurie on trying to win a 3rd Super Bowl, and I just love the mentality of the organization here. I feel like I'm just as hungry, if not more now, for a 3rd championship. Ever since the parade, I don't know that there's been one day where we're not discussing something in terms of the planning process to try to get a 3rd. It's nonstop. It's a burning desire to get that 3rd, and we'll go from there. It's an obsession. Maybe it's not healthy, but I think it's worthwhile. Look, it might be an unhealthy obsession. I call it a healthy obsession, right? To be great at anything in life, you have to have an unrelenting work ethic. You have to have passion. You cannot be content. You can't be okay with winning a Super Bowl last year. You win that Super Bowl, you celebrate that, you go on that Super Bowl parade, and you celebrate the fact that you're bringing home another Lombardi trophy. But a 2025 season is quickly approaching, and it awaits. And how are you going to duplicate that success? How are you going to improve? How are you going to get better? This is not just in professional sports. It's in all walks of life. If you want to lose weight, you can't be content with 10 pounds. You got to keep at it. If you want to own a business, you, of course, celebrate achievements, but you keep it moving. In professional sports, you win a championship, it's great. That's what you strive out to do for that season. There are other seasons that are going to come up around the corner, and that's the dog championship alpha mindset that the Eagles organization is operating with, and that's why right now they're the gold standard of the National Football League. Jeffrey Lurie also said something very interesting. He brought this up. Are the Philadelphia Eagles and the 2024 team the best NFL team in the history of this league? Here's what the Eagles owner said. I'd almost like to say that. Has there been a better NFL team than the 2024 Eagles? Just roster-wise, incredibly capable, very well coached, all sides of the ball, really hard to pinpoint a weakness. And you think about the Eagles roster, right? Best offensive line in football, best wide receiver duo in football, best running back in football. Jalen Hurts, Super Bowl MVP, elite quarterback when there's a lot put on his plate. Had a debate with a coworker today. He said that Jalen Hurts sucked. He doesn't suck. He's one of the more elite quarterbacks in the game. A reason why he didn't put up massive numbers in 2024, the Eagles had Saquon Barkley. They had the number 1 overall defense. Why would you do something that makes you worse as a football team, and just because you're paying Jalen Hurts all this cash and you see what other quarterbacks do, you have him drop back 40 to 50 times? That is not conducive to team success. But in the NFC Championship game and in the Super Bowl, when the Eagles put a lot on Jalen Hurts' plate, what did he do? Absolutely balled out. What has he done in 2 Super Bowls against one of the best defensive minds in the history of football in Steve Spagnuolo? More than 700 combined yards. And in Super Bowl 57, he combined for 4 total touchdowns. And then in Super Bowl 59, he combined for 3 more touchdowns. And you're telling me that he's not good? And then on the defensive side of the ball for the Philadelphia Eagles, great defensive line, great linebacking core, great secondary. And that's at corner, that's at safety. And something else that Jeffrey Lurie brought up, a well-coached team. Nick Sirianni coached his ass off. Kellen Moore did a fantastic job. Vic Fangio, one of the best defensive minds in the history of football. So there is something to be said for this 2024 Eagles team maybe being one of the best of all time. And look at what they did and how they beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, going for a 3-peat. Absolutely smacked them right upside the head. Jeffrey Lurie also commented on the Eagles' looming White House visit. This has been a tradition in American sports that if you win a championship, you go to the White House. I know in this political climate, this is going to get a lot of people up in arms or butt hurt. Unfortunately, I feel bad for you if you feel that way. This is a great honor. And Lurie agrees. He said, we just felt this is a time-honored tradition being invited by the White House. So there was never reticence whatsoever to be celebrated at the White House as a good thing. There were special circumstances in 2018 that were very different. That's when the Eagles did not go, by the way. So this was kind of an obvious choice, and we look forward to it. When you grow up and you hear about, oh, the championship team got to go to the White House, that's what this is. And so we didn't have that opportunity. Now we do. I think we're all looking forward to it. This is really just an invitation from the White House. That's all that it is. We're not politicizing this in any way. Not for us. He also said it's optional. Players who want to go can go. Players who don't want to go do not have to go. I believe that's the right way to go about it. If I'm on the Eagles, I won the Super Bowl, I'm going to the White House because I'm walking the walls of American history right there. Now, coming up next here on the show, it seems like a Nick Sirianni contract extension is inevitable. And what Jeffrey Lurie had to say about the Eagles head coach is very telling. Stay tuned for that. But first, Eagles draft hats are available thanks to our friends at Fanatics. Get ahead of the game because the NFL draft is coming up at the end of April. The Eagles picks will be rocking these lids. You can wear yours before they get them. Chatsports.com/Eagles draft hats. Couple of styles available. If you like fitted, if you like snapback, those versions are available. You can also go dad hat style, which is a little bit more close to your head than this style here to my right. That's the style that I like, but you don't have to like that style. That's all good. The overall look, though, doesn't change regardless of the style there, and I think it's very clean. Chatsports.com/Eagles draft hats. All right, to the back half of the show here. When will Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni get a contract extension? 2025 is the expiring year of his deal. He's made it to the Super Bowl 2 times in 3 years, and in his 4 seasons in Philadelphia, he's the winningest coach in franchise history. Here's what Jeffrey Lurie had to say about his head man. Nick's going to be our coach, and we don't talk publicly about contracts, never have. I'm sure we'll find out soon enough that Nick will be our coach going forward, and he's done an outstanding job. When we were 2-2, we went 16-1 after that, and the one loss was when Jalen Hurts, we were winning the game, got a concussion. So it's not easy to go 16-1 in the NFL. Just overall dominance by Philadelphia. Everything that I had hoped for with Nick, he embodies, whether it's connection, intelligence in so many ways, from football intelligence, emotional intelligence, managing of people, hiring of assistant coaches, growth mindset at all times. It's one of the reasons Howie is so good. Incredible growth mindset. Neither are risk averse. These are all the things that we embody, appreciate, and are a big contributor to the culture that we have. So everything that I had hoped for early on, identifying Nick as the next head coach, has come to pass, and great to work with, and he has a growth mindset. He will get better. Look, there's no other way to deny it. Nick Sirianni is one of the more elite coaches in the National Football League. Being a head coach is not just about calling plays. The number one job of a coach is to win games. And that's all Nick Sirianni's done since he's come to Philadelphia. Super Bowl 59 champion, one of the most impressive and dominant Super Bowl performances that we've ever seen. And when I was in New Orleans, one thing that stood out to me this year as compared to 2 years ago when I was in Arizona, how locked in the Eagles were, how detail-oriented they were. They were not shying away from knocking off the Chiefs and ending their dynastic run. They were not scared of the bright lights. They were ready, and they had a cutthroat, detail-oriented approach all week. That starts and ends with Nick Sirianni. He's now been to 2 Super Bowls in 4 years. He has a 48-20 career record, 6-3 in the NFL playoffs. That 48-20 record, the best winning percentage among active head coaches in the National Football League, and it's one of the best of all time. And he's been over 500 every year that he's been the head coach of the Eagles. The number one job of a head coach, win games. A lot of coaches have talent. Not a lot of them win games. Nick Sirianni wins games, and he wins big games. Another important role of a head coach is to build and fortify a culture. When Doug Peterson left, the Eagles culture wasn't in a great spot. Nick Sirianni has rebuilt it. It is intact. And the 2 years that the Eagles have been to the Super Bowl under Sirianni, the vibes of the team have been phenomenal. Starts and ends with the head coach. This is also important too. Sirianni relates to players. And in this modern era, that's important. Society has gotten a little bit soft. Sometimes players want to be catered to. They want to be babied a bit. Sirianni can be their boy. But growth mindset is what Jeffrey Lurie mentioned, right? Reaching for greatness is what the Eagles are about. Nick Sirianni also holds his players accountable. If they're not doing something right, he's going to call them out, and he wants it corrected. He has also built a tremendous coaching staff. Kellen Moore, Vic Fangio last year. And think about the head coaches of the Nick Sirianni tree already. Jonathan Gannon, Shane Steichen, Kellen Moore. Other coaches have left. They've been elevated in their roles across the NFL. Another sign of a good coach, players developing, getting better, and improving. Howie Roseman scouts the players. He doesn't coach the players. Sirianni and his staff do that. Sirianni and the staff develop and maximize guys. Philadelphia's been a player development factory under Nick Sirianni. And if you don't call plays, you have to manage the game. And Nick Sirianni struggled managing the game in 2023. Every other year, I think that has been a strength of his. The Eagles within seasons have been able to adapt, evolve, make adjustments. They did it in 2022. They did it in 2021. They did it in 2024. That, again, is the sign of a really good coach. So, great the job of Nick Sirianni in 4 years at the helm of the Philadelphia Eagles, and hopefully for a very long time to come. A, B, C, D, or F, share your thoughts with me. Let's see what the people are saying down in the comments section right now. I see Gino and Joseph down there, Kenny the Arkham, Carol Hosey back in the building, Trey Lasado, Gino and Joseph going A, Carol Hosey going A, Taylor Made by God A, Burn After Rolling, hopefully you're rolling something tonight, Quad A, The Wise Man going A+, Kenny A. I'm seeing all A's in the chat. Dennis Designs rocking with an A. Aaron Leby, good to hear from you. Glad you're here. Also going A. Also the poll question here in the chat. Should the Tush push get banned? 94% no. I love it. No one likes us. We don't care. Philly 416A. Cool Willie going B plus D Burns with a B. All right, continue to let us know what those grades are. Segment number 4, by the way, will be a mailbag. If we get enough questions, we will answer those questions here on the program. So get them in, hashtag Eagles, or send in a super chat. What we're about to do next, 7-round Philadelphia Eagles mock draft reaction. And I'm really looking forward to this as we continue our draft coverage right here on the show.
Let's go, baby. We only have 3 questions in so far. Guess what? They're all from Andrew Nathan.
All from Andrew Nathan.
3 great questions from Andrew Nathan, but we're going to need some more than that if we want to do a mailbag.
For sure. Andrew Nathan just put in another one.
There we go. Look at that.
What a legend. It might be the Andrew Nathan show at the end of the program. Hashtag Eagles, send in a super chat. In the meantime, 8 likes away from 100. Hit that thumbs up icon. Like the video right now. And we're about to move to segment number 2. 7-round mock draft reaction is coming up right now, so let's go. Hey there, my name is Chase Sr., and you're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. Thanks for hanging out here with us. Coming up here over the next several minutes, a 7-round Eagles mock draft reaction where we take a look at ESPN NFL draft analyst Matt Miller's 7-round mock to see who he has going to the Philadelphia Eagles. And let's take a look at those picks, and then we'll do some scouting profiles on these players, and I have a lot of thoughts on every single selection here. Eagles first on the clock, 32nd overall. That's what happens when you win the Super Bowl, final pick of the first round, night 1 of the draft, coming up here at the end of the month. And Matt Miller has Donovan Ezeraku, the defensive end out of Boston College, going to Philadelphia there. 64 overall, end of the second round. The Eagles address the tight end spot. Maybe they move on from Dallas Goedert at this point. Elijah Arroyo, tight end out of Miami. 96 overall, Jordan Phillips, the defensive tackle out of Maryland. 134 overall, Logan Brown, offensive lineman from Kansas. 161 overall. Eagles go back to the offensive trenches. Joe Huber, a guard out of Wisconsin. 164 overall. A few picks after that, the Eagles go with one of Cooper DeJean's former teammates, who I talked with at the NFL Combine, safety Sebastian Castro out of Iowa. 165, a pick later, wide receiver Tez Johnson out of Oregon. And then 168 overall, Teddy Buchanan, linebacker out of Cal. Let's go back to the first round. Here's what Matt Miller had to say about Donovan Ezaraku to the Eagles. Draft and replace is Philadelphia's motto, and the Eagles have to replace edge rusher Josh Sweat, who signed with the Cardinals after getting 2.5 sacks in the Super Bowl. Ezaraku is a bit undersized at 6'3", 248, but uses his 34-inch arms and first-step speed to get around and under the hands of offensive tackles. He was extremely productive this past year with 80 tackles and 16.5 sacks, the second best mark in the FBS. Ezaraku's lack of height and power makes him a polarizing prospect, but the Eagles could use him as a stand-up pass rushing specialist early in his career while he adds strength and further develops his game. Adding him to a rotation with 2023 first-rounder Nolan Smith and 2024 third-rounder Jalix Hunt would give the Eagles youth and depth as they hope to maintain the league's fiercest pass rush. And obviously, we know that draft and replace is the Eagles' motto, especially after Josh Sweat got a bag and Milton Williams got paid. And because of that, I expect Philadelphia to go trenches heavy at parts of this draft. For Ezaraku, yeah, he didn't test all that well in the pre-draft process. Some people worry about his lack of weight and him being a little bit shorter, but you turn on the tape and you see a guy who produces and has produced a lot. And no season better in his college career than this past year. 16.5 sacks, second behind Mike Green out of Marshall, who he himself is a polarizing prospect. 80 tackles, 21 TFLs for Ezaraku, with 60 pressures and 3 forced fumbles. This is a player who was playing in a good conference in the ACC. And you look at those pressure numbers, his last 3 years, he has been very consistent with being able to get after the quarterback. And so sometimes in the pre-draft process, we become obsessed with how athletic these prospects are and the athletic testing numbers. Sometimes I don't worry about the athletic testing numbers. I want to turn on the tape. You can be a freak athlete. You can be a specimen. Are you a good football player? Ezaraku's a good football player. I think 32 might be a little bit of a reach, but if the Eagles love him and they think that he can be an impact guy as part of that defensive end rotation, I'm fine with them taking him at number 32 because I trust the evaluation of Howie Roseman. To Elijah Arroyo going to the Eagles in the second round. Dallas Goedert is still playing well, Matt Miller says. But the Eagles have always been good about drafting ahead of need. This is a deep tight end class, making this a good time to take a swing on Goedert's eventual replacement. Arroyo overcame an injury-plagued career to break out in 2024, 35 catches, 590 yards and 7 touchdowns. He's able to beat linebackers and safeties in coverage with speed, but has ideal NFL size, 6'4", 251, to be an effective run blocker as long as he's able to stay healthy. Played only 5 games combined in 2022, 2023. He's a future NFL starter. I do like the ability to block here for Arroyo. You, of course, get worried about the injury concerns. A torn ACL a few years ago. Only 1 good year of production. Stylistically, he's more of that seam stretching tight end, different from a player like Tyler Warren, who's more of that brute force yak, not a seam stretching tight end, more of that physical, picking up yards after the catch type of tight end. But in this era of the NFL, tight ends in the form of Arroyo, they play and they play well. So targeted 47 times, he caught 35 balls. It's really good from Cam Ward. 590 yards, 16.9 yards per catch, 7 touchdowns. Really good red zone threat. And there were times with Miami this past year where you saw some of that breakaway speed. So what say you? Ezaraku, round 1, Arroyo, round 2. Do you like the Eagles' first 2 picks here from Matt Miller? L for like, D for dislike. Share your opinions with me and your evaluations down in the comment section right now. Today's Eagles Now, sponsored by our friends at Prize Picks, a wonderful sponsor. We're so happy they're on board here at Chat Sports. Daily fantasy sports made easy. You pick 2 or more players, you choose more or less on their projected stats, and you can win some big-time money. Right now, when you play $5, you get $50 instantly. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. You can also win up to 1,000 times your money. Just go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use that code CLNS. Prize Picks has more than 10 million active members, billions of dollars handed out in awarded winnings. Let's go some baseball selections here. This is how the game works. Shohei Ohtani against the Braves. More than 1.5 total bases. Okay, all he needs is a double. Bryce Harper, more than a half ribby. And Aaron Judge, more than a half RBI as well. Pick more, pick less. Run your game with Prize Picks. prizepicks.com/CLNS. Get signed up with the best daily fantasy sports app in North America. We go to the third round here. In scouting, defensive tackle Jordan Phillips. Look at the upper body. This guy is twitched up, and he is in great shape. Pause, he has a great body with that upper half, right? And that's important for a nose tackle, defensive tackle to be able to disengage and get past offensive linemen along the interior. So he's powerful. He's known for his work ethic. He's known for his leadership. Very explosive with that upper body. The issue that I have, the lack of production. So Ezeraku, testing numbers weren't great, 16.5 sacks. Jordan Phillips, freak athlete, lack of production here. Of course, you could bank on your player development and try to maximize a player like this, but the production is very minimal here. Good character guy fits in that locker room. If you want to trust your player development to maximize the player, okay, I totally get it. But in the third round, I want a little bit more. 29 tackles, 1 TFL, no sacks, only 16 pressures. A Tennessee transfer who transferred to Maryland, playing in the Big Ten. You are going up against some really talented offensive linemen, 26 pressures the last 2 years, but no sacks in his college career. That there is a little bit of an issue for me. We could talk about athletic testing all we want, right? And you can obsess over it. Can you play football? And when a lack of production jumps out like that, I do worry. Are you just a good athlete? Or are you a good athlete who can also play in between the lines on the gridiron? As for Logan Brown, a trait-heavy offensive lineman, only has 1 year of starting experience. This might have to be a Jeff Stoutland developmental project, but he is very quick laterally and in space, and he's a former 5-star player who, coming out of high school, was one of the top recruits in his recruiting class. Even though he only had 1 year of starting experience, played very well for Kansas. 618 snaps, overall grade of 82.5, pass blocking grade of 78, run blocking grade of 82.2, no sacks allowed, and 5 penalties. There's a foundation there that you can build off of. As for Joe Huber, like the positional versatility for him, has guard and center flexibility. He's athletic and quick off the ball. And Matt Miller talked about it earlier, right? The Eagles have done such a great job of planning ahead. Fletcher Cox retires. Okay, Jalen Carter is going into year 2. And they drafted Jordan Davis before Jalen Carter. Jason Kelsey going to retire soon? Let's draft Cam Jurgens. Like, the Eagles have done a great job of this. Brandon Graham getting a little bit older. Nolan Smith, Jalen Hunt, really starting to come on. You lose Milton Williams and Josh Sweat in free agency. Jalen Hunt a bigger role. Moro Ajomo, very talented player. And so that's kind of the thought process that I think plays here. The other thing with Huber, too, good body control. Lacks length. That's why he's an interior offensive lineman. The Pro Football Focus grades, and again, sometimes it's hard to gauge an offensive lineman's play by PFF grades. Sometimes you want to look at the tape. But yeah, these numbers are a little bit low, like overall grade of 68.7. Pass blocking grade, very good at 76.2. Run blocking grade of 66.4. Did only give up 1 sack, 4 penalties. Again, when you bring in an offensive lineman to Jeff Stoutland University, you can turn those players into really good players. In scouting Sebastian Castro, I asked him at the NFL Combine, were you watching the Super Bowl? did you see that Cooper DeJean pick 6? He's like, yeah, I watched it. I didn't know it was DeJean at first, and then I saw him running, and I'm like, wow, he's about to take that back to the crib off of Patrick Mahomes. And he said, it's pretty cool to see him have success. Not surprised at all because he's a guy who just used to play a lot of video games. As for Castro himself, Eagles fans would really like this guy. This is why. He plays with chaotic and crazy energy. He lacks good athleticism, 4.59 40, and lacks man cover skills, but he can be a big nickelback. He plays downhill, very physical, and he will knock your lid off. He also has a lot of big play ability. When he gets his hands on the football, he makes big plays, as evidenced by what he was able to do while at Iowa. A couple of pass breakups, interception there. In coverage, though, this is the concern. He was targeted 65 times. He gave up 47 catches for 397 yards, 5 touchdowns, and a quarterback rating of 107.0. But you think back to 2023. This is the big playability that I was talking about. 11 pass breakups and 3 picks. Year before that, 5 pass breakups. He's a good tackler, but this is a player who you want to hide and have him around the line of scrimmage in kind of that hybrid linebacker nickelback role. For Tez Johnson, very exciting and dynamic college player, but my gosh, he's tiny. 5'10", 154 pounds. And at 154 pounds, you want him to run like Tutu Atwell. You want him to run like Xavier Worthy, who's like 165. But Tez Johnson has average explosion, and he needs to be schemed free because he doesn't have a lot of short area quickness. Now, when he has the ball in his hands, if you scheme him free on some of those underneath routes and those crossers, maybe a bubble screen or an end around, he's slippery after the catch. The other issue I have with him, he's a body catcher. The ball comes into him, which leads to bobbles. What you want is a hands catcher. The other issue is how he ran at the NFL Combine. One of his 40-yard dashes was 4.6. 4.6 at 154 pounds is not good. And this relative athletic score grade has him even smaller than 5'10", 5'9". Now, what is good? The vertical leap. That is twitchiness, explosion. The broad jump, also pretty good. The shuttle and the 3-cone, not bad. So that's where that slippery nature in the open field comes in. But you'd love to see him be a blazer at that size, and he just wasn't. But my gosh, he put up a bunch of college production throughout his career. He actually grew up in the Bo Nix household, started his college career at Troy, where first year, 735 yards, 4 touchdowns. Year 2, 863 yards, 4 touchdowns. And then he goes to Oregon, almost 1,200 yards in 2023 on 86 catches, 10 touchdowns, but 7 drops. And then this past year, 83 grabs, 898 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 3 drops. Needs to get better and become more sure-handed. Another player who Eagles fans would really like because he plays with his hair on fire, and unlike Castro, he's a really good athlete. That's a linebacker out of Cal, Teddy Buchanan. Sudden, short explosion. He does struggle to read and diagnose plays, which at that linebacker spot, it's a little bit of a problem. But man, he can cover when dropping back in coverage. That's a great skill. Usually it's the opposite, right? You can read and diagnose plays, but you can't cover for a lick. He struggles to diagnose plays sometimes. Hopefully good coaching from a Vic Fangio can help him with that. But you're willing to work off that foundation. Very athletic, good NFL combine. He can cover and contribute right away on special teams. You really like the production here as well. 114 tackles in 2024, 12 TFLs, 5 sacks when used as an extra blitzing man, 4 pass breakups, 2 forced fumbles. So a big-time playmaker. The coverage numbers, the quarterback rating when targeted of only 79 and didn't give up a touchdown in coverage. Started his college career at UC Davis. He was used in a similar way. Good tackler, sometimes used as a blitzer, very good in coverage. Year by year pass breakup numbers, 6, 8, 7, 4. That'll play. No interceptions at Cal this past year, but 3, 3, and 2 the previous 3 years. So grade this Eagles mock draft from Matt Miller. Some picks I like, some picks I don't like. I'll go B- here. You let me know. First super chat of the day coming in from Dennis Designs. Is Avonte Maddox still on the team? You know what's funny is that Chip and I were somewhere in the studio, I think, when Avonte Maddox signed with the Detroit Lions. And Chip said to me, Dennis Designs is going to be a happy man. Look, for a fourth-round pick, he did have a pretty solid career with the Eagles, but toward the end of it, yeah, he struggled a little bit. But how about that pass breakup he had in the flat while guarding DeAndre Hopkins, which was a huge play in that game. And then the next play was the Jalen Hurts to Devontae Smith dagger. So no longer on the team, Dennis Designs. That'll make you happy. All right, coming up next, we're going to do a 2-round mock draft reaction from Field Yates.
We actually got another one from Dennis here.
Oh, okay.
2 tens.
2 $10 super chats. Let's go. I believe the tush push will remain. I hope so, man. The thing, too, that Roger Goodell doesn't think it's an entertaining play, toward the end of the year, when the Eagles would run and approach the line of scrimmage for the tush push, you would hear this audible cheer from Eagles fans. Everybody started to get on their feet, and they're like, yeah. And then when the Eagles would try to do it on the road, everybody would be like, yeah, let's stop that tush push. Let's stop the brotherly shove. Let's go. I think it's a very entertaining play. I mean, the quarterback sneak has been a part of football for a very long time. It was unbelievable how good Tom Brady was at it. Now that the Eagles run their version of it, which is actually safer than the quarterback sneak, if you want to talk about safety, they want it taken away. It's also so hypocritical, right? Sean McDermott. I worry about player safety. Study shows no injuries. Sean McDermott. I don't like the tush push. I want it out. They ran it the second most times in the NFL. They were 0 for 4 in running it against Kansas City. The NFL, we're worried about the safety of the tush push. Also the NFL. We're going to see more kickoffs, and we're going to add an 18th game. Come on now. As part of our mailbag, use the hashtag Eagles or send in a super chat. If we don't get enough questions, we won't run our mailbag, but we will run through, regardless, those questions that came in using the hashtag Eagles for our boy, Andrew Nathan. All right. 2-round mock draft coming up. Let's make sure we change that too. Shout out to the recent commenter club, South Jersey, Kenny, Tito, Dennis, Julius, non-delusional Eagles fam, Sabrina White. It's called the brotherly shove. See, Sabrina, I'm with you. I call it the brotherly shove, but people outside of Philadelphia, they all call it the tush push. So tush push, brotherly shove. Whenever I talk about it, I mention both. Nationwide, known as the tush push. I have a shirt that has the formation, brotherly shove. All right, 2-round mock draft reaction coming up for segment number 3. Continue to hang out here with us. What else would you be doing on a Wednesday, April 2nd? We're going to do some more draft talk here on today's Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. Chase Sr. hanging out here with you. In particular, a 2-round mock draft reaction from ESPN NFL draft analyst Field Yates after he released his newest mock. Before we take a look at that, the NFL draft is almost here. And if you're pumped up and excited to see what Howie Roseman and the Eagles do, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. We've seen a lot of players walk from the Eagles in free agency. That was planned. They got paid. Eagles want to save some money for the future to pay their own players who they've drafted and developed. And now it's time to draft the new wave of Eagles superstars. So Eagles first on the clock, 32nd overall in the first round. So let's run through all of the selections in the first round to give you familiarity with the draft order and the players who could go in the first round. Cam Ward, quarterback out of Miami to Tennessee. Abdul Carter to Cleveland at number 2. Shadur Sanders to the Giants at number 3. Travis Hunter to the Patriots at number 4. Mason Graham, Jags at number 5. Ashton Genty, running back to the Raiders at number 6. Armand Membu, offensive tackle out of Missouri to the Jets at number 7. Jalen Walker, edge rusher and off-ball linebacker out of Georgia, to the Panthers at number 8. Shamar Stewart, athletic freak out of Texas A&M, defensive end to the Saints at number 9. Will Campbell, offensive tackle out of LSU, to the Bears at number 10. Walter Nolan, defensive tackle out of Ole Miss, to the Niners at number 11. Tet McMillan, wide receiver, Arizona, Dallas Cowboys at 12. Will Johnson, cornerback out of Michigan, to the Dolphins at 13. Tyler Warren, another Penn Stater, tight end, Colts at 14. Mike Green, edge rusher, Marshall, to the Falcons at 15. Kelvin Banks, offensive tackle, Texas, to the Cardinals at 16. Gray Zabel going 17 here out of North Dakota State to Cincinnati. Matthew Golden, wide receiver, Texas, to the Seahawks at 18. Malachi Starks, a lot of Eagles fans love him, Georgia dog, 19 to Tampa Bay. Omarion Hampton, running back out of North Carolina, to the Broncos at number 20. Jackson Dart, number 21, to the Pittsburgh Steelers, quarterback out of Ole Miss. Colston Loveland, tight end, Michigan, to the Chargers at number 22. Michael Williams, edge rusher out of Georgia, to the Packers at 23. Jahdae Barron, cornerback, Texas, Vikings at number 24. Donovan Jackson, offensive tackle, to the Texans at number 25. Maxwell Hairston, cornerback, Kentucky, Rams at 26. James Pierce, edge rusher out of Tennessee, to the Ravens at 27. Derek Harmon, defensive tackle out of Oregon, to the Lions at 28. Nick Emanwori, the safety out of South Carolina, to the Commanders at 29. Josh Connerly, offensive tackle, Oregon, Patriots at number 30. Luther Burden, wide receiver out of Mizzou, to the Raiders here at 31 as they trade up. And then Jahad Campbell, linebacker, Alabama, to the Philadelphia Eagles. Not quite a Georgia Bulldog, but the SEC pipeline continues for Howie Roseman and the Eagles. And I'll tell you this, it is not a sexy pick, but what a steal Jahad Campbell would be to the Eagles at number 32. It would be the earliest that the Eagles draft an off-ball linebacker, not edge rusher like Nolan Smith, who's listed as linebacker, off-ball coverage linebacker, since the Eagles took Michael Kendricks out of Cal in the second round all the way back in 2012. Philadelphia is a linebacker city. That's why people love the play of Zach Bond and Nakobe Dean last year. That's why everybody was saying, Howie, you got to address linebacker. And if he addresses linebacker in the first round, the value here of this pick is something that I really like. Here's what Field Yates had to say. It hurts me to see Campbell have to wait this long. He's the final prospect on the board who ranks inside my top 25. But after recent left shoulder surgery, his health outlook for the start of his career is less clear. But this would be a classic example of the Eagles pouncing on a talented player who fell due to circumstance. Philly struck gold with a no-risk signing of Zach Bond last offseason, and the idea of a linebacker trio, eventually composed of Bond, Nakobe Dean, who's coming off that knee injury, and Campbell, is exciting. He had 112 tackles, 11 and a half TFLs, 5 sacks after an INT last year. For a linebacker specifically, because of the physicality at that position, how often you have to engage your body from a physical standpoint, shoulder injuries are always worrisome for me, but this could be a great addition to this Eagles defense. The relative athletic score, he did not bench at the combine because of that shoulder, but he still earned a 9.87 relative athletic score out of 10. He weighed in and measured in at 6'2", 235 pounds, and at that size, he can run. He ran a 4.5 40-yard dash. The production was very steady. The tape is very consistent. He is an NFL caliber player who can be in the league and succeed in the league for a very long time. 117 tackles this past year, those 12 TFLs, 5 sacks, 20 pressures. So you can use him as a blitzer, and Vic Fangio does that a lot, whether it's right off the jump or on a delay. 2 forced fumbles, and 1 interception. His coverage numbers, pretty good too. Targeted 30 times, gave up 24 catches, 170 yards, had 1 touchdown allowed in coverage, 3 pass breakups and a pick, a quarterback rating when targeted of 87.5. Throughout his career, really started to come on the last 2 years at Alabama. You saw the flashes in 2023 under Nick Saban, and then in 2024 under Kalen DeBoer. You're like, wow, he can be one of the top prospects in this class. Field Yates has him as a top 25 guy. Triple-digit tackle numbers, double-digit TFL numbers, halfway to 10 sacks, 20 pressures. Jahad Campbell, an instinctual player who plays with feel, who I think could continue to come alive under Vic Fangio and the linebacker background that he has with developing those types of players. So chime in. Who is your dream target at number 32? Drop me a name down below in the comments section right now. And speaking of the NFL draft, Eagles draft hats are available. If Jahad Campbell gets drafted, he's going to be wearing one of these Eagles draft hats that we're showing you. Head to chatsports.com/Eagles draft hats. It'll take you to Fanatics. And Fanatics will know that Eagles Now, your boy Chase Sr., your fearless leader, and Chat Sports sent you, available in a couple of different color schemes as we're showing you, kind of that vanilla and black. There's also a dad hat option, same design, but a little bit closer to your head. Snapback and fitted options as well. Chatsports.com/Eagles draft hats. We'll put that link down below in the show notes and attached to the pinned comment of today's Philadelphia Eagles. Now, to the second round here, Tyler Shough, quarterback out of Louisville, to the Browns at 33 after they pass up on one. At number 2, Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle, Michigan, to Buffalo. Donovan Ezeraku, number 35 to Tennessee. Trey Amos, cornerback, Ole Miss, Jacksonville at 36. Josh Simmons, offensive tackle, Ohio State, to Kansas City at 37. Tyler Booker, offensive lineman, Alabama, to the Giants at 38. Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver, Ohio State, to the Bears at 39. Jaden Higgins, wide receiver, Iowa State, 40th overall to New Orleans. Quinshon Judkins, running back out of Ohio State, to the Bears at 41. Mason Taylor, tight end, LSU, to the Jets at 42. Ariante Ursery, offensive tackle, Minnesota, to the Niners at 43. Travion Henderson, 44. Running back, Ohio State, to the Dallas Cowboys. So they go Tet McMillan, Travion Henderson. Carson Schweisinger, linebacker, UCLA, Colts at number 45. Darius Alexander, defensive tackle, Toledo, to the Falcons at number 46. Nick Scorton, defensive end, Texas A&M, to the Cardinals at 47. Jonah Savane, offensive lineman, Arizona, to the Dolphins at 48. Azareye'h Thomas, cornerback, Florida State, to the Bengals at 49. Siobhan Revel, cornerback, ECU. If he didn't tear his ACL, may have been a first-round pick, to the Seahawks at 50. Elijah Arroyo, tight end, Miami, Broncos at 51. Jared Wilson, offensive lineman, Georgia, to the Seahawks at 52. Benjamin Morrison, cornerback, Notre Dame, to the Bucks at 53. Jack Beck, wide receiver, TCU, to the Packers at 54. Alec Ayumanner, wide receiver, Stanford, Chargers at 55. JT Tuimalahu, defensive end, Ohio State, to the Bills at number 56. Jalen Noel, wide receiver, Iowa State, to the Panthers at 57. Kyle Williams, wide receiver, Washington State, to the Texans at 58. Xavier Watt, safety out of Notre Dame, to the Ravens at 59. Tate Ratledge going early here, guard out of Georgia, to the Lions at 60. Will Howard, quarterback, Ohio State, to New Orleans at 61. Jacob Parrish, cornerback, Kansas State, to the Bills at 62. Landon Jackson, edge rusher, Arkansas, to the Chiefs at 63. And here we go. Defensive tackle out of Texas, Alfred Collins, to the Philadelphia Eagles at 64 overall. Field Yates on why he made this pick for Philadelphia. Collins had dominant stretches at Texas, and with more consistency, he could quickly outplay this draft slot. He's 6'6", 332 pounds, and he has 34 5/8 inch arms. The Eagles love to address the trenches at the draft, and Collins could help replace Milton Williams. This is also where Moro Ajomo went to school. I expect Moro Ajomo to have a really big season coming up in 2025 and helping to replace Milton Williams. In scouting, Alfred Collins plays hard, man, has athletic traits, freaky athletic, really good length. His first step quickness is just okay. Takes him a moment to get going. Stretches of really good play, stretches of okay play, but the athleticism is really tough to pass up on. In 2024, 16 games played, he registered 55 tackles with 6 TFLs. Only had 1 sack. You'd like to see that number be a little bit higher, and you'd like to see the pressure numbers be a little bit higher than 18. Sneakily, though, instincts along the line of scrimmage, to jump up, bat some balls down. That's where that athleticism comes into play. 7 pass breakups and a forced fumble. Now you look at his body of work in college, really started to play a lot the last 2 years. 23 pressures in 2023, 18 pressures in 2024. And then when he didn't play as much, still had 11 pressures and 15 pressures in 2022 and in 2021. So you'd be banking on the athleticism and your coaching staff being able to develop the player. I think that you could get a better selection here in round 2, but this is Field Yates' mock draft, not mine. Do you like this mock from Field Yates? Y for yes, N for no. What say you? Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that sub button for daily and year-round coverage of the EAGLES Eagles. All right, almost 6:30 on the East Coast, 3:30 on the West. Dennis Designs, our Super Chat MVP so far. Andrew Nathan, great show today. My man, thank you. This is what we try to do every time we're live on Eagles Now. Speaking of Andrew Nathan, let's just go through a little bit of those questions here. And then we'll dip on out of here.
Well, we'll hit these 3 from Andrew Nathan first, because he was on it before we even started the show.
Yes.
So, got to show him some love here.
Andrew
Nathan, show him some love.
Always bringing the heat. He said 1 out of 3. All right, so this is the first of 3. The NFL is ridiculous. The injury risk is the same as any other goal line dive or sneak play. You're worried about players dropping their heads. Have you watched football? Keep it on this for a moment, right? The tush push, people are worried about catastrophic injury concerns. Literally at every level of football, any given play, there are injury concerns that could be catastrophic. It's the nature of the game. 2 out of 3 from Andrew Nathan. Have you ever played football? Sometimes it happens. You can only coach up the fundamentals so much. You get a ban diving for a fumble, there's injury risk there. Did they ban the no huddle? Did they ban the wildcat? The RPO? If they were worried about player safety, why are they adding another possession in OT? Why are they adding an 18th game? All fair points, man. All fair points. And a lot of people will say, you're just biased. You're saying this because you're an Eagles fan. No, the Eagles do this so much better than everybody else. They're so superior in running this play as compared to everybody else. There have been no injuries from this play. And to me, it reeks of jealousy. It's cowardly actions from other teams in the NFL. They want to ban it because they're jealous of the Eagles and the success that they have with it. Build up your offensive line like Philadelphia. Have a quarterback who can squat 500, 600 pounds like Jalen Hurts. Cool Reigns, Aussie. When Azeez becomes the next Barkley, we can thank the Giants again. Yeah, I think that Azeez Ojulari can have a big season for the Eagles. I mean, he's only 24. Twitch, speed, bend coming off that edge. He's had really good sack production, more than 20 sacks in 40-plus games. And in this defense, playing with this talent, in this scheme, for this defensive coordinator. I think Azeez Ojulari and Josh Uche, they both play well. Trey Losado, with the draft coming up, who do you think that we'll get? Man, you know, there are a lot of players who I think the Eagles could get. Like, I would love Walter Nolan to the Eagles at 32 if he fell. Derek Harmon to the Eagles at 32 would be awesome. Malachi Starks would be a great player to go to the Eagles at number 32. They could just go offensive line at 32. They could go linebacker, Jahad Campbell at 32. A lot of different options, but some players there, Trey. Thanks for the question. Carol Hosey, do you see any more trades before the NFL draft? Watch the show that I did last night. Howie Roseman kind of hinted that maybe the Eagles could make another big move. I'd be surprised if it's a blockbuster move just because of how the Eagles are trying to save some money. But have they said all of that about saving coin only to make a big splash? I do think they're trying to allocate some finances for all of the contract extensions that they have coming up because they've drafted so well. Kenny the Archon Pony. What key roles do the Eagles need in the draft? Like we need picks on defense, players are on offense in the later rounds. I'll just give you my biggest Eagles needs on the roster currently. I think that's what you're asking. Defensive and defensive tackle, linebacker, safety, offensive line depth. Those are the biggest needs. If you get rid of Dallas Goedert, tight end becomes a pretty big need for Philadelphia. Cool Reigns. Should we draft Desmond Watson so that we can pancake the offensive line on the other team? Man, you want to talk about a big hoss? That's a big hoss right there. I've been waiting to use the word hoss. Shout out to Joey Peterson. Desmond Watson is a big hoss. See, if I was a team, I would take him to stop the brotherly shove at 450 pounds. Lion fighter. Do we need to draft the running back? I think we do. I think they do too. I don't think A.J. Dillon is like a lock to make the roster. You gave him like $1 million, and so you have Saquon, you have Will Shipley, who the Eagles really like, by the way. And I really like the player too. I mean, he flashed in the regular season, in the playoffs, in the preseason. He flashed as a special teamer at times. So you know for sure, Saquon, Shipley making the team. But this is such a deep running back class that, yes, I'm intrigued by some of the backs in this class and not opposed to taking one. Julius Felton, JFK photo. If we trade up round 1, do you take Starks or an edge? Also, late thanks for the happy birthday wishes last December. You got it. Happy birthday to you once again, even though now we're here live on April 2nd. I could see Howie moving up for Malachi Starks. I could see him moving up for a defensive tackle or an edge rusher who he really likes. This is peak Howie season right here. Lion fighter, what are we doing for tight end if Dallas Goedert gets moved? This is a deep tight end class. Gunnar Helm out of Texas, Mason Taylor, LSU, Elijah Arroyo, Miami, Harold Fannin, Bowling Green State. His head coach from college is now the Eagles quarterbacks coach in Scott Loeffler. Colston Loveland could be available at the end of the first round potentially. So this is a really good tight end class. So if they move off of Goddard, they sign Harrison Bryant, they sign Kylan Granson, you draft a tight end, you have Grant Calcaterra. That's 4 tight ends on your team right there. All right, before we dip on out of here, thanks to everybody for tuning in. Don't forget to hit that sub button. We're going to continue to bring you the heat on Philadelphia Eagles Now. For Chip, I'm Chase, and for Jeremy. See ya.